Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And I was just explaining to Kason that while today's show might be a little shorter, just with our limited docket here, there's some takes that I have on some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today that might not just surprise you, dude, but some other people who listen to us. How you doing, my friend?
Good, good.
Is that a new hat?
Nice Thursday. No, I've had it.
You've had it a while. Is that
Mhm.
Grogu on the front of you?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Looks like Grogu's a
it's
potted plant.
it's a pocket, so he's like sticking out of the
Oh,
pocket.
that's cool. I love that. I dug out an old favorite of mine as well.
Mhm.
I got the Spidey symbol hat on. I bought this when Spider-Man Homecoming was being advertised, Cason, when New Era dropped that line. So that's how far this goes back. We are going to talk about we do have some Marvel and pop culture stuff in the docket today at the end of the show, towards the end. But we begin with a handful of sports stories, starting with, we always talk on this show, brother, about media consolidation and different deals. And it wasn't until I did a little bit of research on our first topic here where we're going to begin about how big a deal Disney has just made in terms of revamping ESPN as a content home.
Mhm.
More specifically, I'll just kind of read this off. ESPN is acquiring NFL Network, other NFL media assets in exchange for 10% equity stake in ESPN. That being, is it that the league will own 10% of ESPN or the other way around? I think it's
it's the league
owning
owning
ESPN.
ESPN. Yeah.
So in propriety, the ESPN is about to become even more so the kind of
Because I
yeah.
believe they also own 10% of CBS now. As
Well,
part
that makes
I
sense.
believe I saw that. I so it seems to me that as part of the contract negotiations, the NFL is trying to own part of the networks where the games are on.
Mm.
So we can have a conversation about that, but
Well,
keeping on the ESPN
yeah, go ahead.
situation.
I think well, obviously we'll be talking about that. I think ongoing. I will say that among other things, Red Zone is now an ESPN product, along with quite a few things as far as what the NFL Network essentially put on and was known for. Immediately, a couple of things came to mind for me. It's a big consolidation of media, especially in the same vein in the course of this week where Disney has essentially announced that Hulu is going to go away and all of that is just going to be absorbed into Disney Plus in the next year and change. Uh,
That's been trending that way, but
I
yeah, which
agree.
is which is sad. Just because like I remember when like Hulu first dropped and it was like basically free with the ads and stuff. Um, this was I don't know, probably 15 years ago. And you
Yeah,
could
when it first
watch
dropped, it was a long
anything
time
the
ago.
next day just yeah, just for and then it was acquired by Disney and it is what it is now, but yeah, I mean it definitely just kind of it's sad to see this like next generation streaming like hit
What's
where
it?
or transition to where we're going now.
Well, it's essentially becoming cable again. I know a lot of the
Yeah,
internet's already been like joking about that.
yeah.
And honestly, I made a joke to someone today, but I really can see like in 10 years there being like a big package to where you pay an X amount and you get X amount of streaming services, including live TV, and it ultimately is cable but online now. I can definitely see there being some sort of consolidation to where maybe it's not called cable, but it's in effect cable again. Um,
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't necessarily operate the same way. But getting back to ESPN, immediately I did not love the idea of Red Zone becoming an ESPN product, primarily because by definition, ESPN will change it. And they will, for the same reason why I'm not a big fan of them getting inside the NBA. Because in a lot of ways, I sent you a TikTok today. I would say that, like, really, it's been this way for a while, but ESPN really just feels like a propaganda machine now. Like it really just feels kind of like, and when I say propaganda, I mainly mean like pushing the agenda of sports leagues. I'm not necessarily saying politically one way or the other, but the ESPN Sports and Programming Network. the entertainment part of that, the entertainment sports and programming network has essentially, yes, always been there, but I would say that things are about to get as like watered down and um, non-journalistic as they've ever been with ESPN at a time when they're revamping ESPN Plus for like their $30 subscription. They're adding like WWE to that. They're going to add Red Zone to that. And do you mean
Yeah.
to tell me? I mean, don't get me wrong. I kind of understand that they need to do something to revamp ESPN because the ESPN brand right now, I would argue, is pretty weak. It's a pretty weak brand. And I look at them as saying aggressively, okay, let's just go get some content. And thoughts on anything of that nature? Because this has been very
Yeah.
fascinating to me.
So,
This has been very dystopian to me this week.
yeah, on to what you were saying about referencing what you sent me earlier about the um independence and journalistic integrity of the network.
The great Jeff
I
Pearlman.
I I I think it will change a little, but I don't think it'll change that much because it already did change.
Mm.
Because all these journalists, especially the like number one beat guys, like back in Woj, now Shams and Schefter, they don't report anything that's actually important because if they do, they'll lose all their sources.
Mm.
So like all these guys already water down their reporting to keep in good graces and curry favor with the execs who give them the scoops that they rely on for their jobs.
When you
Like
say important, what do you mean? Like,
like the content of like the promo video that you sent me, it was like they use CTE as an example. Like
mm,
they haven't been talking about that for 10 years
right.
because they've been being paid to not talk about it for a decade. And
Yeah,
no, they're still not going to talk about it because now part of their ownership relies on nobody thinking about CTE. So
right.
it's just the fact that like it's not good, but it's also been bad for a long time already. And I like it might get worse, but like I think we need to step back and look at where we are now. We're not where we thought we were. Like we are actually pretty far down the road of all this stuff. Like we already have like Shams, the NBA guy, like tweeting and all like tweeting about the injury status of all these players, like in collusion with the ESPN sportsbook. Like all of this is all a mess. And I thought I had the thought too of like now the NFL as a league owns 10% of a company that owns a sportsbook that operates betting on its own product.
Yeah, which is
Like
insane.
how is that even working?
Yeah, which is insane. It is kind of, it really makes me wonder when these contracts are being negotiated and drafted up in these boardrooms, how much of the language is even touching gambling. I would argue probably none of it is because I think because as long as that gravy keeps flowing, so to speak, everyone's just gonna kind of say, the gambling thing, let's just kind of not mention that so it doesn't start to screw up our other integrities of our other products.
Well, it's also a thing too of like this is what's kind of like insane is the so ESPN along with like the whole ESPN as a sportsbook thing is like in general terrible because
Already crazy. Yeah.
think about it this way: the NFL, which owns ESPN, has general managers in its employ. The general managers are the ones who text the ESPN reporters who's not playing that week,
Yeah.
and the ESPN reporters are the ones who report out they're not playing, and those affect betting lines on games on the sports book that the ESPN reporters work for.
They do.
So it's so the NFL can just say, "Hey, don't tell your contact this guy's not playing because then this guy like they won't affect the lines. So then once it comes out on Sunday, we'll get enough people that already betted and we'll be able to push our numbers up and we'll make money." That like that's how that'll work.
Yeah,
Is
that is
that
how it'll work.
like that is exactly what's going to happen. And this whole thing has become a massive mess. We talked about it with the Guardian situation. Like this is we are heading down a road that like it is all going to blow up in a terrible way. Not far down the road from now. Like
I don't
It
know what the
is.
blow up looks like though. Like I don't
I
know.
don't know either, but
I keep thinking to myself, these leagues cannot just get away with this wholesale dabbling with these media deals and dabbling with the gambling side without something happening. I don't know if it's going to look like a reckoning or some kind, but like,
I
and listen, I don't want to get into politics here, but would it take an act of legislation at a federal level to really finally kibosh this when
it,
something
it would. It
horrendous
would.
happens? I think it will. I don't. It may
It
not
would.
be for another decade and change once we've really seen what the ramifications of like mobile gambling is.
Well,
But
I think what we're basically like, not to, I guess, sound, you know, like a, like an old head here, but it's just like, this is why it was illegal for a long time.
right.
Like this is exactly why it was not legal.
Well, case and in some
And
regard,
and
we are
so
old heads. So I mean,
and so I think I
we're
think it is
millennial
more
heads.
likely it is more likely than not that at some point in the near future there will be a federal ban on sports gambling. Like,
Of some kind, or like some sort of federal
or
reining in of
some
mobile.
kind, I don't know. I mean, I would not be opposed to a federal ban on mobile gambling,
Mm,
if only because that puts it in the in actual like establishments to just sort of limit who's doing it,
mm.
because at this point it's just insane. Like
Well,
it's insane.
it's at the state level to kind of steer the conversation back to the original idea of it. I mean, would you say that some of the stuff that ESPN is acquiring here, they put $1.6 billion down to acquire like pretty much exclusivity for WWE. They already have college football,
which
you know, and various events
which
throughout the
is
year.
so funny because that is now like bankrupting Peacock. That like after they lost the WWE, they announced they're jacking up prices. So it's
Yeah.
like, what is happening with Peacock?
Yeah, and honestly, what's going to happen back to the sort of last thing we said about like consolidation again, ultimately what's going to happen is some of these sports streaming services are going to go away. It's almost like I'll give you an example. It's almost like how like CNN Plus only existed for a month and all of those people they acquired all that talent until they ultimately looked across at the business like and realized that the streaming dollars were just not there. And so it was like, we're going to catastrophically lose money on this if we even continue. So they pulled the plug immediately. Now, I always kind of looked at that as, okay, they must have not have sunk as much into it to be able to do that right away. Because if you sunk like a quarter of the business into it, like, I'm sorry, you're at least going to try to have to make it successful. Um,
Yeah.
Ultimately, what is going to happen is what you just said. Like, you know, what are people going to stay on Peacock for? Notre Dame football? Like, you know, I just, and, you know, and ESPN already got the NHL from NBC a while back. So it's sort of like, at some point, say what you will about ESPN, but the Disney Corporation has at least seen the writing on the wall of where ESPN is at and is saying, if you don't like our content, okay, like, we'll just go get some. And I can at least appreciate them doing that. It just feels a bit like a hostile
Yeah.
takeover. And I think to myself, if it gets to the point where I can't watch ESPN Plus games without paying for the $30 subscription a month, that's what's really going to irritate me. Because when ESPN Plus first launched, I was pretty annoyed because before that there was ESPN 3, which just meant that the regular ESPN broadcasts you had to jump on a computer or a desktop to watch them. When ESPN Plus launched and it became like the $5 a month thing, I immediately said this is unfair to fans like me who are like BG fans or mid-major fans because I now have to pay $5 more a month to watch my games, which were always free on ESPN 3 before. And I understood that. Can't you see where this is going already? It's like to
Yeah.
get ESPN Plus, you're not only going to have to pay for that whole ESPN, or you pay for it for the year, which is what I do, but you're going to get all this stuff. Yeah, sure, like watch ESPN and everything, but you're going to ultimately have to pay that monthly subscription to get access to all this stuff that I'm never going to watch, like WWE and all that.
Well,
I don't know.
it's my
It's
understanding
annoying,
that
man.
the WWE is going to essentially be pay-per-view.
Which is
Um,
great, which is what it primarily always was.
yeah, and I all of this stuff is getting like consolidated into the ESPN app,
Right.
and which is
Which
free
is
if you have
inherently
cable.
good. Yes.
And so if you already have a cable subscription, you can use that to get it for free.
Mm.
Outside of, if you don't have cable, you have to pay for that. But
Or like YouTube
yeah,
TV or
it
something.
it does then raise the question of like, then why does ESPN Plus exist? Like, if it's all basically getting conglomerated into the same thing, then like, why does that? I don't understand. I haven't seen if they're making tweaks with that. I don't know for sure, but that's the thing too. Of as somebody whose team played on ESPN Plus a lot and still plays on ESPN Plus a lot. Um, it would be nice for them to actually see some of that money because they don't have anywhere close to an actual fair media rights deal.
Well, right, and
So I
some
don't
of
know.
us also need ESPN Plus for their jobs. I know
Yeah.
it's probably a lot fewer and far between, but I'm one of those people. I am. So, yeah, I just kind of look at them as hopefully this ultimately shifts to a place where we don't even really notice it. That's really what I'm hoping for. But right now, I don't know. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth of like, okay, I don't love the idea of ESPN controlling all of this. I don't love it at all because
Yeah,
recently, whatever they touch is just not as good. Pat McAfee, not as good. Like a
I
lot of
think
things are just all, a lot of things just become watered down corporate drivel. So
they said they're not touching inside the NBA. They said they're not going to touch red zone. They might not this year, but I mean,
oh
who's to
yeah,
say that they
and
won't? I
I had
mean,
someone say to
like
me
like like,
like,
like I don't trust that at all.
right.
Like,
And I'm just gonna go ahead and say so a couple of people have told me recently that like Pat McAfee didn't change that much. Pat McAfee changed. Okay. I remember the YouTube channel in terms of just the language, the stuff used, the stuff that they would cover, the things that they would cover in depth, and the things that they would be able to talk about in the YouTube era. Also, the fact that they're doing all these live shows at all these different events, because the rest of the ESPN crew is there and who they're having to interview. You can literally see in the show someone go from like the first take set to the Pat McAfee set. You can literally see it. That is not how it was in the past. Like I watch Pat
mhm.
McAfee now and it just feels like another ESPN show with Pat McAfee as the host. And they're talking in the same cadence and stuff. They're not talking about the stuff the way that they would in the past. So yeah, the show changed. I don't care what you say. As someone who was a really big fan of the YouTube show, it changed. And so it just, like I said, it just feels like another ESPN show now. I've had multiple Yinzers tell me I loved Pat McAfee and then ESPN happened. I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah. I
nothing
mean,
against him. It's just what happens.
I will say, I will say, this is where the league is playing with fire because
Mm.
they have an antitrust exemption, and this is getting into the territory to where owning the networks that broadcast your games is sort of violating that antitrust
I agree.
exemption. And
What left
I
there?
I don't
What left there might
I
be in antitrust laws, but yes.
yeah, I don't believe that that will ever be pursued for the next 3.5 years, but maybe sometime down the road
Right.
that might get pursued.
Long term. And also, let's be real, we're not really going to, you never really know what the ramifications of something are until like 2 to 3, 4 years in,
Yeah,
depending on what it is. So, and that kind of goes with what we were talking about last show with the whole gambling thing. Like, we're still very much in the Wild West. Let's kind of see what happens.
yeah.
And we talked
But
about
I
that
will
with
say,
NIL and everything too. So,
but I switching to maybe things that could be good.
mhm.
I there they didn't say that it was an active plan, but I think everybody's kind of aware that it probably is. There, we might end up getting a college football red zone type of thing out of this, which could be interesting.
That could be cool.
So we'll see. We'll see. We'll
That
see.
you're right. And as a show where we generally try to keep it positive, like, yeah, that's a really good note to kind of end that convo on.
I mean,
Switching,
that would be because there's so many games on a Saturday,
oh,
and
dude,
it's
that would
really hard to keep track.
it would be really cool. Like if you could have a couple of games on that you really want, especially with the whole YouTube TV function, or not just YouTube TV does it. They all do the split screen. But if one channel was literally just Red Zone, I mean, I almost feel like you would need a couple of channels doing that with Red Zone because there's so many games, like you just said. Like, hey, this just happened over here in this mid-major game. Like, With the
Yeah.
NFL, there's at least a finite number of games that it's easier to do that. I don't know if you can just have one channel covering that much college football, but or maybe you do it for
Yeah.
Power Four and Group of Six or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Switching gears to another NFL story that it's kind of a couple weeks old now. I just really want to weigh in on the Micah Parsons versus Jerry Jones and the Cowboys situation because
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
world where, the Steelers and the Browns and all these other organizations can somehow, some way not alienate, and even if they slightly alienate, can ultimately come to terms and peace with their non-quarterbacks. Hey, Micah Parsons has thrown the gauntlet down at Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, essentially refusing to play there anymore. You kind of have this. Oh yes, here we go. Look to you right
Yeah.
now.
I mean, I like it's
It's humorous, man.
it's funny, but it's also like it's hard for me to believe any of these players, not necessarily like it's Micah's fault. It's just like every time you hear about, it's just this player's mad and holding out, and then it's like, okay, well, it's because you just want more money. Like I'm sure Jerry can bump up your contract a little bit and you'll come back to camp. Like
It's
it's
a it's
and
like an
you'll
agent strategy.
it just feels like it. I mean, like I don't know. I mean, like um I would have to see Micah just literally not play the entire year
Mm.
and then like force his way out of there to believe this. I mean, not like it's necessarily Micah's fault because it's not like Micah's the one that's pulling all this stuff, particularly referencing Miles Garrett. But I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, because like I can't necessarily say I blame him for for wanting to get out. I mean, I don't think I'm sure he has seen enough to know that they're not going to do anything this year, and he's like, I don't want to waste away not competing.
Yeah, but even
And
then, it's sort of like the Miles Garrett is basically in the same boat with the Browns, and ultimately that deal was done. So I'm kind of with you. It's like, yeah, but if I could just bump the price up, or we can continue to negotiate and figure it out. Micah Parsons is the man down there, like he is, and so I was like, yeah, this is like these are my folks though. These are my people. Cowboys
yeah,
are where my careers happened. Dallas is my home. I'm under the belief that we're still heck, this time next week, a deal could have been done. You never know.
yeah,
I but I will say it is always funny whenever things happen with the Cowboys. Mainly one because just it's the Cowboys, but two, um, whatever the negotiating tactic is, it just always seems like it's the extreme immediately. like just something was said to someone and irked someone enough in their negotiation tactics to where it's like I will never play for this organization again.
I
Tables were flipped, things were sent through windows, like that kind of stuff.
I will just say that you can tell that most players that play there have like a time limit before Jarrah just wears on them and they
Jara.
just kind of but before it just kind of is like, all right, I don't really want to be dealing with this anymore. It just it depends on the person, it depends on what they're used to and how they can process it, but
It
a
depends on how
lot
horrible the last playoff exit was.
but most of the players kind of get worn down and then eventually just hit a breaking point, and then they're just like, okay, this is I just got to get out of here. They're like, I can't be around this guy anymore.
You're telling me that you're telling me that team in our own division is just incredible again and wins the Super Bowl. It's like, and we can't, and we like on paper are like as talented, but we can never just get it together. Man, the Cowboys are a fascinating franchise, man. They really are. And someday that organization will be post Jerry Jones, whatever that looks like. And I am curious to see what direction they go, just because the paradigm shifts with ownership. It's always interesting. But I'm under this belief, like I've never ever hated the Cowboys or really disliked them at all because, quite frankly, they've never really been relevant. And in a lot of ways, I kind of sympathize with their situation as fans because of being a Pirates fan. So it's comparable in that, like, if it weren't for your owner, things might be better, but
Mhm.
Casen just can't seem to
I
show
just
things.
texted you something to make a point that I don't
Yes.
think necessarily needs to be made on the air,
Oh
but
boy.
I think you'll agree with this sort of analogy here.
Yeah, I don't totally agree with that analogy, but essentially the fans are under lock and key of Jerry Jones.
Mhm.
And once whatever it looks like someday, even if a couple of different decisions were made now by him and others, I think the Cowboys could put a contender together pretty quick because despite of everything that the Jerry Jones era has been for the last like 15 years, the Cowboys are still an extremely strong brand
I
in a
I
very
would just
popular market. So,
I would just like to see what happens because I don't like in a post Jerry world. I don't know if I necessarily believe Stephen Jones is just going to be owning and running the Cowboys forever. Like
mm-mm.
I to me, I'd take my $10 billion and go run away forever. Like, thanks for the 10 billion, Dad. Like I don't like
yeah,
I
but you
wouldn't be sitting around dealing with that.
Yeah, but you forget the Cowboys are worth like 4 billion or whatever it is. Like they're like super valuable.
That's what I'm
So,
saying. Is the Cowboys could probably sell for close to 10. I don't know. I mean, it's
that yeah, adjusted for inflation maybe, but
yeah.
the 10 that's a lot of money. But I get your
The
point.
Commanders sold for 6.
I you're right. I get your point though. Like you pay me X amount of money, it's like the headache of dealing with the league and just the circumstances of sports ownership. Or I also could just, become an actual multi-billionaire and do whatever I want. I don't know. I
I I
pursue a different passion.
we had this conversation a bit ago when I think it was when the Walton guy bought the Broncos.
Yeah.
We were like, why do you never see actually the richest people buying sports teams? Like it's always these guys who just have like 5 billion and then so they spend all of their money on this thing. Like
Well,
you don't see Elon, Bezos, like you don't see them owning sports teams when they have the
right.
most money.
Well,
Like it's just interesting to
well, to
see
be
that the guys who
fair,
can't afford it.
Bezos was attached to that whole Broncos thing, if you
Yeah,
recall. Like
yeah, yeah.
there was rumors of that.
I
I
think
uh,
he's been trying. Yeah.
right. I agree with you. Um, but I agree with I agree with your sentiment. Where I disagree is not disagree. I to that I raise you because they must care about sports to some degree to get involved. Care about sports, care about the business, care about hopefully seeing glory of their teams winning someday. You wouldn't go through it otherwise. And actually, this whole point transitions to our next topic pretty well. But you wouldn't go through the headaches if you didn't, to some degree, at least in your heart of hearts, care about sports to some degree. If not, like if the team has success, then at least about profiting in the business. I don't know. Um, there's a lot of perks to team ownership, obviously.
I think I'm mostly saying I would be interested to know if any of them have been vetoed by the board of governors from
Mm.
trying to get a team.
Well, we know it
That would be
happens.
that would be interesting to know.
We know it happens, and typically sometimes that happens, and we don't know about it, right? Because maybe a formal vote wasn't taken, but kind of a backdoor, like, hey, you're not actually going to
Yeah,
do that, right? Like
yeah,
there's the meetings, and then there's the meetings after the meetings, the conversations
mhm,
that happen on the way to the water cooler or to the
yeah,
car or to the
yeah.
snack table or whatever.
Like
Yeah,
you
we're not
remember,
actually doing that, right?
like you know the BlackBerry guy that would he try to buy the pens and move them to Canada? Is that what he was trying to do?
There were a couple. There was, the Penguins when it looked like they might be for sale. They almost moved to Kansas City. That was probably the most in line. Was definitely probably going to happen. The Penguins are going to move to Kansas City and rebrand, which is interesting now, Casen, because I wasn't going to go in this direction today, but it's interesting we got into sports ownership just briefly here. The Penguins are the Fenway Group is looking to offload the Penguins again. It's interesting what's happening. The same contingent that sold them, the Penguins, might be buying that stake back soon. They're a little bit off, right? That face you made is also very interesting.
Oh,
There's a lot of speculation within the city of Pittsburgh that, and among media members, that maybe they miscalculated the asset of the Penguins in the NHL, which it doesn't really compute because the Penguins have appreciated in value, but long term, the Penguins are looking at a rebuild. Like the Penguins long
well,
term, the Penguins of 3 years from now are not going to be the same team. So
it's
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 just it.
just
It's fascinating that
it's just
they made
very
that investment
funny.
and then that happened. It almost looks like they bought the Penguins just to make that Winter Classic happen, and now it's like, okay, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
it's just very funny for them to buy a team that just got off of a cup run and then sell it immediately once the players get old and they start to go through a rebuild. It's
Well, and
just
it
like
well, and
like you bought it at the peak value and then now you're offloading it like after they've kind of
it wasn't right after the cup run. That the last cup happened 9 years ago. We're coming up on a decade. We're about 8 to 9 years ago. We're coming up on a decade of the Penguins not really being very good. So it like they sold like around 5-ish years ago. So it wasn't like right after a cup
oh,
run.
okay.
Yeah,
I remember that being
no,
longer
no,
ago
no, no.
than that, but okay.
They were right. That sell had happened like within a year of us starting the show. So it was like
Okay.
a year or two. It was like 2021-ish around then. So it
Okay.
wasn't quite that. I think they just saw the dollar signs of Sidney Crosby, Evgeny
Hmm.
Malkin. It was right after all those guys like said we're going to be Penguins for life kind of thing. I just think that maybe they miscalculated, but we're getting a little off track here. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
go too much into that. Bottom line, Micah Parsons, Jerry Jones, sports ownership. It's just a fascinating world. Good luck in your negotiations, everyone.
Yeah.
The reason I thought it would be a good transition is because we sat here and we discussed Formula One racing only one time on this show before, and it was when Lewis Hamilton left Mercedes to go to Ferrari, if you recall.
Hmm.
And you kind of were educating me a bit during that conversation. Well, I have since become a much bigger Formula One fan. And I just kind of really wanted to chime in and say there's a paradigm shift happening right now in F1 this season, which is kind of unreal. And the paradigm shift is that if you're not familiar with Formula One, essentially the 24 races or whatever, the teams accumulate points over time, and there's 2 races per team. But there is one world champion that happens. Lewis Hamilton's won something like 8 of them now. He was the kind of dominate. He won like 5 in a row. If you're familiar with the name Max Verstappen and Red Bull, which let's be real, there's a lot of toxicity within that team, but beyond Max Verstappen, but the machine that keeps it running keeps Max Verstappen at the top. Max is a phenomenal driver, everything. He's been the world champion the last 4 years. There's a massive paradigm shift happening right now, a power dynamic shift in Formula One right now because the McLaren boys have been cleaning up this season. And when I say that, I mean Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri have been like double podium winners like 4 times or something, 4, 5, 6 times already this year. And as a team, just for some context here, the point accumulation is McLaren in first place with 559 points, and your 2 drivers earn these points. Ferrari's in second place. How many points do you think they have, Casen?
If it's going to be shocking, I would say like 200.
Yeah, 260 is second
Oh,
place.
wow. Wow. Wow.
And just for some context here, Mercedes is in third. They're at 236. So it's not like there's a huge drop right there. It's like, hey, we're all kind of doing okay. And the McLaren's just way up here. It's like, all right, so these guys are definitely winning one of these 2 guys is definitely winning the world championship. Um, I just really wanted to recognize those guys. If you're not familiar with McLaren, they drive like the papaya orange cars. And honestly, I started becoming a fan of theirs because their cars look sweet, and I love the color orange. Obviously, the banner's out behind me. But then Lando Norris and these guys just started destroying everybody. And sort of like if you watch the first few seasons of Drive to Survive, Max Verstappen's kind of on the rise. Like he's still chasing Lewis Hamilton. He's still you can tell he's going to break through. He breaks through. It feels like the last few years, like Lando Norris and Oscar have been like kind of chomping at the bit, getting a little closer. And now it looks like the literal competition is going to be between the 2 of them for who is going to be the world champion. And for some context, right now, trying to see here, they're essentially neck and neck in terms of like the driver standings. I'm just trying to pull it up here. 2026. Yeah, they're like 15 points apart each, and you can earn. They're basically trading it. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted some acknowledgement of how insane it is that the main competition McLaren has this year is with each other, but pretty much everyone across Formula One were like, whatever the McLarens did to crack the code of creating the car, they nailed it this year. Because
Yeah.
oh my gosh, because that's
The
up to in every offseason they redesign the car. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, Formula One is very unique in the fact that like every year uh there's this huge switch of like somebody's car becomes really good, then somebody who was good, their car becomes trash. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me
Yeah,
that like somehow like the team that was the best last year can like break their car and become the worst next year. Like
yeah.
I don't understand it fully of like how this happens. I know a lot of times um the teams will like probably be poaching and will be poaching engineers to steal their stuff. I think I don't know.
Engineers and
Um
principals. Principal just
yeah,
means leader of the team. That's all that means.
yeah. So I know that
Think
that
head coach,
dynamic
like head
can
coach.
probably switch it, but yeah, it's definitely crazy because like I know there's been some talk about maybe Hamilton and Verstappen getting a little bit of a bump just because of their car for a while, but yeah, I mean, and so clearly I mean McLaren figured out something that nobody else did.
Oh, dude, and what was interesting about it is I'm just trying to pull up here. Uh, yes, Christian Horner, who was like with Red Bull as the principal for like the last 20 years or something, got
Mhm.
fired this year after like the British Grand Prix because it's like, how are we not winning? It's like
Yeah.
because McLaren's just destroying us. I don't know what to tell you about that, but like the very fact that Verstappen has like been the world champion these last 4 years, and the course of this season now, there has been a lot of internal turmoil at Red Bull, which I think is contributing. I mentioned that earlier. There's YouTube videos on it. You can go look it up. It's toxicity, man. But it's more of that than anything else. But it is just insane that like half the season goes by and it's like, yeah, we're still not doing as well as it is. And it's like, and we're just getting these guys are coming through and destroying us. It's just wild. The reason it could be a paradigm shift is sort of what you were saying, dude. A lot of people tend to kind of copy that car design. And this has been
Mhm.
such an overwhelmingly like a lot of people have been like, you got two great drivers, but then they're also piloting rocket ships, is basically what people are saying. These things are insane. And so it's going to be fascinating to see going forward after this year if it was the car or the drivers. Now, it's obviously the answer is somewhere in the middle, obviously. But for both dudes to be doing this well to where they're that far in front of the rest of the pack, everyone's going to be like, all right, McLaren, what'd you guys do? Like, we're, it's espionage, man.
Well,
It's going to be nuts.
I mean, I not to like, say anything. It's just the dramatic, I guess, lead that they have makes me wonder if they're doing something uh to the car that they're not allowed to. Maybe I'm just saying
They're
that
messing with the
like
formula.
I'm just saying that like I'm curious on if something will come out at some point of like, oh, McLaren was actually like like rigging their cars and the all the stuff got stripped. So like I'm just curious when something like that happens because it just seems suspicious of like how they're basically lapping everybody else in points.
We're just putting the Dominic Toretto nitrox to the car and just
Right, right.
using that when
Well, I believe that that McLaren has a good chance to win the Lunar Grand Prix
yeah.
in a couple weeks. If they're following the Toretto formula there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're just going to send our cars to space, actually. Yeah, the next Grand Prix in the next few years is going to be on the moon, actually. One last little thing about F1 I wanted to point out is that next year we actually get something pretty cool. This is a relatively new development, new for me. Next year we are actually going to have an 11th team in Formula One. It's Cadillac,
Hmm.
which is dope, actually. Like it's just
Yeah,
it's cool to me that like a major American manufacturer has been like, hey, let's enter this and let's go Cadillac. Like that's
I
sick, actually.
this has the potential to be a terrible thing for American made manufacturing,
100%. It could
but
be
we'll see.
hilariously bad. It could be
We'll
explosively
see.
apocalyptically bad, actually. And it goes to what I was just saying. You talk about an insanely expensive sport to get into. Insanely expensive. Like you need to have success. You don't make money expensive. Like it's
It's
crazy.
it my only thing of it's like okay, like Cadillac is cool, it's a great brand, but like you also don't look at Cadillac and think, wow, their engines are great. Like they really know how to tune an engine. Like
I
like
think of
they're oh god, like if you would have told me it was going to be like Dodge Ram or like there was something that like screamed like Hemi V8 like power and like I don't know like to me I'm sure they'll figure it out. Like I think I remember hearing that they poached a bunch of people who were like formerly on like they know what they're doing and they have a seasoned
they
veteran.
sound like they know what they're doing.
But it's just funny to think of like Cadillac is not the brand you would think of for like race car.
No, it's not. And what's fascinating is like you look at General Motors, like looking around. Okay, how are we doing this? We doing GMC? We doing like Chevrolet? We're doing like Chevrolet probably would have sounded cooler, but like you think Cadillac. You know what I think of when I think Cadillac? I think of every dude over 50's dream car. That's what I think
Yeah,
of.
yeah,
And listen, I also think of
yeah,
Escalades and
yeah.
stuff like that
Escalade with the blacked out windows.
with the
Yeah,
blacked
yeah.
out windows, maybe spinners on
Spinner
it.
rims. Yeah,
Yeah.
spinner rims. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Like spinners, what you really don't see anymore. You really don't see those anymore. You see the big
No.
rims, you don't see the spinners anymore, mainly because at some point someone realized, oh, those are a nightmare to maintain. Yeah, they were
Yeah,
cool for
yeah.
like a month slash year
They,
once
they
upon a
were they
time.
were they were cool for like 2005,
Yeah,
and then after that,
2005,
yeah,
6. That was it. It was like
yeah, that was
honestly,
it.
like spinners are like the Heelys of like car design. Like,
And they just people just realized they got really impractical.
yeah,
So
or like
because
the
you can
yeah.
just get like you can just get cool looking rims instead. They
Yeah,
don't need.
Heelys, same thing. Like you can't really walk without these wheels in your shoes, and then they're really not great shoes otherwise. Yeah, this was not a good idea. Anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to talk about some Formula One for a little bit. Thank you for indulging me. That was a more lively
Yeah,
conversation than I
yeah.
expected. But keep your eyes on that, just because whenever there's a shift in a sport like that, which they call the pinnacle of motor racing, it's like, hey, it. Not to mention, it's a really dramatic sport. It's like a reality TV show. Hence why Drive to
Yeah,
Survive is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So these
Everybody, watch out for the 12th constructor team,
yeah,
Oldsmobile.
exactly. These 20 kind of eccentric, kind of nuts dudes going around in a wild track, and next year it's going to be 22. So keep your eyes on who the drivers are going to be too, because who knows? Are you opening the door for American drivers? Maybe. So we'll see.
They'd be terrible at it.
Yeah, they probably would be bad at first, unless they come up on those circuits. So,
I mean, if I'm Cadillac, I'm doing everything I can to get Verstappen and just
oh, I
like,
I
yeah,
agree. It's like, hey, Red Bull, things aren't going too well. What would it? There's other guys that can overpay too. Like there's other guys who race for like Renault and other ones.
yeah.
So
Yeah, if I was like the richest person in the world, like if I had like $300 billion, I would just buy a team in every sport and pay ungodly amounts of money to just make sure I win everything in the world. Like, oh,
if if
I'm
something
gonna
doesn't win,
yeah, I'm gonna buy a constructor. I'm gonna pay for every driver. I'm gonna buy the Cowboys. I'm gonna buy the Lakers. I'm gonna buy the Yankees.
I'm gonna buy all of Live Golf. I'm gonna buy like this, gonna buy that, Gonna buy. I'm actually gonna buy Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. They're gonna be my
Yeah, yeah,
drivers. Yeah,
yeah. Well, Lewis is like old now, so I don't
yeah,
know
he
about
is.
that. But
Lewis is like 40 now, but still. Anyway, that was awesome. Time to shift gears to our last topic I have here, and that is simply to talk about the just something that I think people are going to be kind of surprised at what I have to say about. So we have been talking a lot about Marvel and DC over the course of this summer, just because of the speaking of paradigms, just the reception of Superman, the reception of Fantastic Four. We obviously disagreed about our takes on the movie itself with Fantastic Four First Steps, Casen, but we and you even said it was a good movie. It was a good movie, but I even sent you one that was like, yeah, but I really think that the cultural phenomenon this year is going to be remembered for how good Superman was, because partially because of how bad a lot of DC stuff has been, quite frankly, since the Dark Knight trilogy.
well, and I think I to just sort of summarize that, I
Yes,
think it just in lies of like my bar for Superman was in the basement, and because it like flew past that so much, that it has a better thing. Whereas I had an elevated bar of expectation for Fantastic Four,
right.
and so for Fantastic Four, just meeting the bar was made it feel like an inferior product, if that makes sense. Like
Makes
not
perfect
like
sense.
it's a
Yeah.
worse movie or anything. It's just the fact that because Superman exceeded my expectations by so much, it just had a different feeling.
Right,
Yeah.
and I don't even really think it's fair to compare those two movies because they're very different. You know, one's a solo film, one's a group movie, one's retro realistic, one is like set in modern day, one's a
And they
different
had very
universe.
different things to do. Like
Yeah, and
Superman just had to establish the universe. You had to establish the universe, be a bit more of like let's reel people into the story. Whereas Fantastic Four had to establish these specific characters
the
to set them up for
characters,
Doomsday.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And who's to say that Fantastic Four might not have been a different movie or received differently if it wasn't, if we didn't know Doomsday was coming. But
right, right.
prior to Doomsday, we are getting this on the ground level Spider-Man movie, of which I'm not gonna like. I gotta just rip the band-aid off. I don't love anything about seeing as much as we've seen on social media about this. I thought the suit reveal was cool for Tom Holland, but I don't know about you, but social media has been absolutely flooded with set imagery of this movie to the point where I'm starting to kind of hate it. And I have a bigger point. I just want to hear your response to that first. I don't like this at
Well,
all.
I think well they're filming it like in the middle of New York City, so I don't think
Right.
they really have a choice.
They don't have a choice. I
Like
get that. I understand that.
it's gonna get out there, which is different. I mean, the last one was filmed almost entirely in the volume,
Yeah.
or like on a closed set for COVID purposes. So like nothing came out from that movie except from some stuff that was leaked from the production company when they're doing the trailer stuff. But
Right.
um, so that's I think just kind of different, and it is very different from what we've seen Marvel projects be before. However, I think that's sort of the point of they're filming on location, sort of not on a set to make it seem more realistic. And I think that's maybe the intention behind it. And also, I almost wonder if it's because almost out of necessity of like, hey, guys, we can't keep spending $500 million to make a movie to hope it makes
Mm,
750 million to break even.
that's true.
Like, it's not like Disney can't afford to take the hit, but it's also a thing of like we have to rein this in.
Filmmaking,
We
yeah.
have to be able to make a Spider-Man movie for under $200 million, please. Like,
Clearly, because clearly we can't hit a billion like we used to. I
yeah,
am going to sit here right now and make the prediction that next year's Spider-Man movie will not make $1 billion, whereas in the past, Spider-Man has almost been a guaranteed $1 billion. Like at
yeah.
least among the home trilogy, it came real close or it made it.
I okay, I'll bring this up and maybe derail the conversation a bit,
Be
only
careful
because
because I still have a
I
bigger
want to know
point to
your
make.
thoughts.
Sure.
Do you think this movie's necessary?
It's kind of where I'm going with this.
Because when I found out they were making a fourth Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, I was like,
Now,
do
right?
do we need this?
Do
Like we
we
just
need
saw
this
like
now? Do we
like
need this now?
I mean I get it because of where we left it, but I
I
would have
let
go
me
ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
let me respond to you. That has been my fear for this movie since it was really announced and where it was on the timeline. Because as you and our listeners and viewers know, I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite fictional character in all of literature. So my opinion on him is always extreme. Okay. I'm now on record saying that I am not a fan of any of the ways that any of the Spider-Man home movies were marketed. Okay. Wasn't a fan of the way they marketed Homecoming. Wasn't a fan of the way they marketed Far From Home. And hated the way that um, No Way Home was being marketed because it was all about the multiverse, new villains, and whatever. He wasn't going to get his own villain. Ultimately, I liked those first two movies, and I really did love No Way Home. Ultimately, okay, it's aged well in my head. A Tom Holland down on the ground Spider-Man movie happening half a year before Doomsday feels completely pointless to me. And the way you just described Fantastic Four First Steps in our last cast is how I'm already feeling about whatever direction they take this story in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Because the, quite frankly, everyone who they've said is going to be in it, not unexciting to me, but kind of pointless to me. I'm like, okay, it feels like it feels like characters that we should see on the TV shows, quite frankly. Okay, you're telling me Hulk's going to be back. Great. Punisher's going to be in it. Great. Sadie Sink is for some reason going to be in it. Cool. I don't know necessarily who the villain is yet, but like you're telling me this is supposed to apparently Kingpin's gonna have like a cameo in it or something. They're working on that. Like, I don't love how much I know about this movie, but the more I learn about this movie, the more I'm like, do we really need this before Doomsday? Like, is anything that I'm watching in this Spider-Man movie a year from now gonna make any difference to Doomsday? And
Well,
I'm telling you right now, it might hurt the movie long term in terms of going to see it. Like, if a lot of people go and see that Spider-Man movie a year from now, brother, and walk out feeling exactly like how you described about Fantastic Four, they're in massive trouble. They, as in Disney, in the MCU,
I
they're in massive trouble.
my assumption would be that he's in Doomsday, and that's why. But also,
He has to be, I'm sure.
my question is like, I I think that they just made the mistake of like basically introducing him in a way that they could never ever top.
Mm.
Like he was introduced in Civil War, and then Homecoming was fine, but I think basically before the second Spider-Man movie, he was in space and then got dusted by Thanos.
Right.
Like I think the directions that you went with him before he even got a second movie was just I think a bit tough. Like I don't
And
know.
part
I
of that is
mean,
Sony. Part of that is Sony. It is.
yeah.
It
And
took it took, you know, almost divine intervention for them to ultimately get him in that MCU saga at all. And when they saw how good it was going to be, they've had to work with Sony this whole time, and Sony's been on board. And let's be real, recently Sony has given us really good Spider-Man content. Actual Spider-Man content. I'm not talking about their villain movies. I'm talking about like the Spider-Verse stuff. And so they're doing kind of something with the IP in their own way, which they have to retain the rights. I understand that. I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. I know a lot of Spider-Man lore, and I'm racking my brain of anything they're gonna do in this movie that is actually going to matter by the time Doomsday rolls around.
and
Because I will be real with you. I am extremely worried for Avengers Doomsday. I'm extremely worried for it because
yeah.
for all of the reasons we discussed in the last show, I am extremely worried for it. I think it could be a disjointed mess. I think it could be okay, but not good. I think it could feel like a really undercooked Avengers movie. And it just feels like a ground level Spider Man movie coming out 6 months before that movie does not spell winning formula to me. But hey, thoughts? I
Yeah,
mean, I'd love to
yeah.
hear your thoughts on that.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, no. in a vacuum, I don't, like hate the idea of it, of returning to, you know, like a Spider-Man 1 type of, like ground level villain, street crime level thing. I don't hate the idea of that in a vacuum. My only thing is just like, okay, this would have been awesome, 3 years ago. This would have been awesome, like
Yeah.
any other time. It's just right now, I don't know for sure if it makes sense to bring him back down to street level to then bring him back out for Doctor Doom. Like
Yeah,
I don't
cosmic level
I
again. It's
it
like, okay.
it doesn't really, because like you're doing all this work, you made everybody forget him. He's just inconsequential, anonymous again, just beating up guys who rob bodegas in New York. So now they're gonna have a whole movie about that, and then all of a sudden these people from another universe show up to say, "Hey, we've got this cosmic level threat from Doctor Doom. Come help!" Like it doesn't make sense. It
And
does not make sense
unless
because
they have it on the,
nobody.
yeah,
My only thing is like nobody remembers that he helped with Thanos. Nobody remembers he was there for that,
right.
and so they're gonna be like, "I don't know if you can handle this kid." And he's like, "I've been to space before." I like, you don't remember this, but I got dusted. Like
Hmm.
I don't think people understand, or like I just don't know if that's gonna go well. Like I can already see there being a scene to where they have to like teach him about how to be an Avenger, and he's like, "You don't remember this, but I was." Like there's gonna be
Right.
this whole conversation about that, and it's gonna be so annoying, and it's gonna be pointless. Like
Right. I don't know. There's just something that I have not liked about any of this. I haven't loved part of seeing all that stuff. Before you get on me and say, Kellen, don't look at social media then if or block out the stuff if you don't want to see Spider-Man content. I'm sorry, I have to be plugged in every day and all day for my job. Okay. I have to be on social media more than you. If you're listening to me, I have to be plugged in and have all of my socials open at all times. I might put some blinders on. We'll see. But at this point, I don't see any way that I'm not just going to know the plot of the movie by the time it starts. Like,
I I I would also like to just sort of circle back to the comment that we saw come from Feige, where he was basically saying that like, yeah, we're gonna like reboot the universe anyway. Like
that's true.
where
Secret
where
Wars is
like
going to be a
like
reboot.
in
So,
in my head, I'm like, then what are we even doing here?
right.
Like you told us you're rebooting the universe after Secret Wars, so then why are we supposed to care? Like
That's true.
I
What
I
what does
said
that
it
mean, right? What does
I
that
said
mean,
it
Kevin
at the
Feige?
time. Like they're setting up this huge threat and this huge thing, but we have no idea who any of these characters are. We don't care about them. We have no reason to care about them.
Right.
And so this is why this entire saga post Endgame has been pointless and a failure,
Yeah.
because we have no stakes. We have no skin in the game to care.
No.
Like and it we talked about it before. It's just the whole studio got way too high on their own supply after the Infinity Saga that they thought they could duplicate it. And they just captured magic in a bottle, and they tried to do it again, and they didn't get there.
Well, and see, it depends on what you mean by magic in a bottle, because like critically and like commercially, they've put out probably more successes than failures since Endgame. But I'm with you in the sense of the stakes and the stuff to care about has and we're a show where we reviewed everything. We have reviewed basically everything that has happened since our from Marvel since our show started. We did a state of the Marvel when we started this whole thing a couple of years ago, and we have meticulously been critical. I think we've been pretty fair, especially recently. We've not tried to bury them or anything, but I think we've been fair. And it is kind of, I think maybe that's what's happening with me. Maybe this is the result of the missteps that they've had. Do I think that something like the Infinity Saga is kind of replicatable in some way again? Maybe, but I don't think it's going to necessarily, dude, be like the rise among the Avengers films anymore. I think ultimately what we're going to be seeing is projects that somehow join together and or lead to another Avengers movie rather than having the Avengers movie mark the next phase that lead up to one really
Right.
big one. Because
No,
because
right.
because Doomsday to me feels like one, the whole thing's a giant retcon. We know it is because it was supposed to be the Kang Dynasty stuff. This whole thing's a giant retcon. It's a bit of a Hail Mary bringing Downey Jr. back and all this stuff and all this cast, whatever. If they can pull it off, good. Hopefully they can. I really hope they can. It feels like this should have been the culmination of another Thanos level like rise. And unfortunately, they I'm with you in that they probably can't replicate that because the whole rise to Thanos was such an experimental thing anyway.
Yeah.
And literally Hollywood never saw it before. And so maybe that right there is the lesson that even James Gunn and others are using in terms of you can't just do a cinematic universe because in some ways everything kind of needed to go perfect in the first place. You know, even James Gunn is saying, let's just take one script at a time and make good
Yeah.
movies and see what we can do rather than get us to the pinnacle immediately, you know?
Well, and I mean, I everybody's talked about, they've added so much, they've bloated the universe with all the Disney Plus stuff. My biggest problem is them not really following up on anything that they're like teasing.
And
Like
they're not going to. They're not
like
going to be able to.
like they were so, for example, the end of the Marvels movie ended with Kate Bishop showing up and basically like Samuel L. Jackson, I'm building a team thing with Miss Mar with Kamala Khan, and it
It
was
sure
just like,
did.
where nothing of like that's not
We're not
happening
getting
anymore.
anything. We're not
Like, and
getting
so it's just
anything Young
like,
Avengers.
if
No.
you're going to take the time to tease something, actually make sure it's a project that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, don't be setting up these stupid storylines that go nowhere and actually kind of alienate the audience, because your audience already was like not on board with a project like the Marvels, but the people who were on board with it wanted a project like the Young Avengers,
Yeah.
and because now they're not getting it, they're annoyed and pissed about that.
And they're
So it's
probably
like,
checked out. They're checked out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's exactly. So it's like, don't dangle something in front of your fans and
Right.
then yank it away because you don't think it'll work out well. Okay, yeah, but then why'd you say you were gonna make it?
Yeah.
Like,
And I think the relative underperformance of Fantastic Four first steps, and I'm not saying that movies as a whole aren't doing that. Movies as a whole are not quite what they were pre-COVID, and maybe they never will be again. You know, who's to say that that could be the case? And there's a lot of different factors why people go to the movies. A whole lot of people have told me this summer, I'm waiting for streaming because I can. I'm like, I understand, I get it. Um, and they don't have shows like you and I where we got to talk about new stuff a lot of the time because if I didn't have to necessarily do this, I probably would put some movies off. I will note not the movies we talked about on this show. I probably still would have seen them immediately.
I
But
I
but
just just as
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
just as a side note, I saw this thing on Twitter that was a graph of like OpenAI was like announcing that like their AI usage of ChatGPT just collapsed after June, and everybody
Mm.
was like, yeah, because the only people who use ChatGPT are kids in school, and there isn't school right now. It was
that's that's really
and
funny, actually.
my thought is that the entire movie theater and movie industry is propped up by movie commenters and reviewers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That the only people who go see movies in the movie theater are the people who have to review them.
I will also say this a very very true comment that was recently said by a couple of folks, but someone like tweeted at someone. Literally, the only people who complain about movie lengths are movie reviewers, and I was like, 100% true, 1,000% true. I have never heard anyone say, "Oh, that movie was too long," or "We didn't get enough
well,
content."
well,
Like,
well.
well, what?
My
Come on.
my wife did had something to say about the length
Okay.
of Oppenheimer, but
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fair. And it is one.
Also,
That's true.
as a side note, I we were having a conversation, and we were talking about that, and so I pulled up Christopher Nolan his filmography, and she's like, "Yeah, I've never liked any one of these movies I've seen." She's like, "Oh, he did this movie? Yeah, I hated that movie." Because she was like, "Yeah, I tried to watch Interstellar and I hated it," and I was like,
Terrible, terrible,
"Okay." I was
terrible.
like, "Yeah, you just objectively hate every Christopher Nolan movie,"
Hey, you know
and
what?
I was like, "Which is fair." And she was like, "Yeah, because like my." My boyfriend in high school drugged me to Dark Knight Rises, and I hated that movie. And I was like, okay, yeah, because it was Christopher Nolan. Like, yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I was like, then you should be grateful I'm not going to drag you to the Odyssey next year.
Hey, exactly. Listen. And who knows? Maybe you and I can see that together. We'll see. But hey, it's just an interesting time for movie making and movie going in general. It's sort of like what we said a couple shows ago. It's like people who are like, I don't like James Gunn style. It's like, okay, well then you're not gonna like Superman because it's that whole movie. Like it's some directors just have that, right? Getting back to what I was trying to say though, I get that the economics of movies have changed, but there's something to be said about how big a drop off Fantastic Four First Steps had, like an 80% drop off or something to its second weekend. And I'm not trying to say it's like an end all be all of how it is, but I do think that a lot of people probably went like us, told their friends, yeah, it's pretty good. I would go see it. Whereas a lot of people said, no, you got to go see Superman. Like it's a staple. And I just don't know how many more of these. I don't want to call them duds because literally, commercially, they're not. How many of these underwhelming things Marvel can survive, quite frankly.
I well,
And I don't want to
I
see it happen to my boy, quite frankly.
I
My
I
boy,
I I,
pointing to the hat.
I not to get way back into the like Fantastic Four conversation, but it's just like the reason for the difference in performance of the movies is tone.
Yeah.
Like you think about how the what the tone of Superman was and how that resolved and the vibe, whereas with Fantastic Four the tone of the movie and the vibe of the movie, like Superman was an experience that made you feel good.
Yeah.
Like Fantastic Four was like an art piece that you were just getting through to get the plot.
And
Like,
like doom and gloom. Like
yeah,
the
and it
world's
was
gonna
like
end.
dark.
The world's gonna
Like
end. It's a pretty dark movie, really. Yeah, I agree. You're right. The
like
tone is different. Yeah. It's sort of like when
where
someone
like
yeah.
never mind. Okay, never mind.
I will call out one reviewer just because it's the summer of calling him out, and I'm still a fan of his. When Jeremy Johns said he walked out of Fantastic Force feeling that sense of hope, and he didn't feel that from Superman, I'm like, well, you're just wrong. Like, I, I'm sorry, I did not walk out with that sense of Fantastic Four. I thought, well, hopefully nothing like that happens again.
We yeah, we can yeah, I think
I'm not trying to
he's
bash anybody.
I'll bash him. Yeah, he's had enough bad takes that I think we can all just maybe unsubscribe and not pay attention to anything he says anymore. Like I don't think he's reviewing for the integrity of the movie that it is anymore, if that makes sense.
It
I
well,
I
and
think
I
I think
think
he's reached a
certain
point to where it's now his own personal opinions for other things getting in the way of his reviews
Yeah,
of the movie.
it's like I'm going to decide how to review this movie to push an agenda versus how did you actually feel about the film. That's
Yeah.
how I like, and I would say I especially this summer, this year, and going forward, I would absolutely caution everyone who reviews movies, whether it be in the way we have shows too, the way we do and the way we have, which is pretty innocent. We don't have any other hidden agenda or anything. We're just saying, hey, did you like this? No, yes, talking about it. It might be different if we had other kind of agendas and stuff like that, but I would caution every movie reviewer out there to not push your agenda first to try and make that your statement about a film versus, hey, did you like this or not? Yes and no. This is why, you know. So
Mhm.
I appreciate you saying that because he's not the only person I have felt that way about this summer. And I don't mean I even people I talk to about movies that aren't like on the internet, you know what I'm saying, like we are. So um good take, man. But I've said what I
I
wanted to say. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
reeling it back in. I just want to
Yes.
summarize it with one question
Sure.
that would you have preferred that they maybe just recast Kang rather than blowing up the entire universe of like their plans to then redo to do Doomsday? because it feels like at this point it would have been way easier to just continue with whatever their plan was, and it would just with a different actor, rather than having to just drop half the storylines to reinsert Doom somewhere.
Might have been premature, but honestly, where I sit now in 2025, they should have just done the Mutant Saga immediately. I really scrapped if you need to scrap the whole Kang thing, that's whatever. I really think that after Endgame, they should have said, okay, we're just going to do the Mutant Saga straight up. We're going to start getting our people. You can because since they're doing a Doomsday thing where half the cast is coming back anyway as the X-Men, which is also pretty which is also pretty unexciting to me. They're bringing back half the X-Men cast anyway. We've already seen like Deadpool, Wolverine. It was there on a silver platter. I am under the belief now that they should have just done the Mutant Saga and we should be leading into an Avengers mutant like showdown movie. I would have much rather
I
prefer at this point. I would have
Yeah.
much rather preferred that. Did I feel that way a year ago? No, but since we're just bringing back half the actors anyway and like signing on the Fox universe and combining stuff in the multiverse, I would have been like, all right, well then let's just do the Mutant Saga immediately because the rise of that would have been way more interesting. You get X-Men, you establish them, do an Avengers thing, and then you establish those two different factions, and then you lead into like a conflict movie that way. I don't know. I don't know what the right decision was, but I haven't seen
Yeah.
what they're gonna. That's my answer to your question. That's my answer. So, if you're asking me, would I would have rather just them recast Kang and them continue that way? It probably would have been cleaner than what they were doing. Probably would have been a lot cleaner. And honestly, you probably could have done it because Kang is a variant anyway. You know, pick a new actor, go some
Yeah.
different direction with it. It would have been clunky, but like you probably could have at least weathered the storm, and then maybe there you increase the threat to like a Doom level threat, and it's like, oh, he's the real bad guy. I just feel like is it gonna just feel is Doom even gonna feel menacing because it's Robert Downey Jr. and the way they're doing it? I don't know. I'm not excited for these projects next year the way I thought I would be after seeing Fantastic Four and seeing all this stuff with Spider-Man. And it's just like, oh boy, like, is it DCU or bust now? I don't feel that way. But probably a long and complicated way to say, I wish they would have gone a different direction than what they have. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
That's what we got. So probably kind of a sour note to end on, but I would love to hear from out there. Those of you that listen to this show, I know that there's some who listen and talk and watch us do have opinions on Spider-Man. Those of you within my family, you'll share them with me, but um, and friends and all that. But please let us know what you think out there because that's what I got for the for this week. Uh, Thanks everyone so much for listening, watching, however you feel about this and anything else we talked to and in between. Casen, you got any parting wisdom?
Uh, my only other parting comment would be that the Browns make me cry on a daily basis, and
Oh
that's very
boy.
upsetting. But
Well,
yeah.
between our next show and this one, we will see Mr. Shadir Sanders take the field for the Browns on Friday of this week, which is going to be today by the time you hear the show. It's going to be literally what,
Yeah.
August 8th?
Yeah.
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 So here we go. Let's see who the next quarterback of the Browns is going to be.
Yikes.
Man, on that note,
uh,
this is Kellan,
this is Casen.
and we'll see you as always at the next stop.